Oh Lord, we need your word.
Chapter 3, verse 13 through 15. First Peter chapter 3, verse 13 through 15. Who then will harm you if you are devoted to what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness, you are blessed. Do not fear them or be intimidated. But in your hearts, regard Christ the Lord as holy, ready at any time to give a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. May Lord have a blessing to the readers, the hearers, and the faithful doers of His most holy and righteous word. I want to preach for a few minutes today about living the life of divine testimony. Living the life of divine testimony. It means to exemplify through your living the results of the saving grace we experience after a divine encounter with Jesus. If you've been with Jesus, your life ought to show it. The way you behave after being delivered by Jesus ought to be signs that you know God is able. Your life ought to be a testimony. We should demonstrate that we've been transformed in our thinking, that as soon as something happens, we don't go quickly into panic mode because we've been with Jesus long enough to know that He's going to do something about it. That we're not giving up so fast, that we're not giving in so fast, that we're divinely inspired to live victoriously throughout our lives, even if we're going through something. Our spiritual credibility is not affirmed by mere words of faith. I want you all to get this. We can talk faith, but if we're not showing it, then we're not demonstrating to Jesus that we truly got faith. So many people talk that talk, but they're not walking that walk. They say they got it, but as soon as something happens, you can't tell they got faith. You can't tell that they've been with Jesus. You can't tell that they trust God. And so what we're trying to get you to see is that your life is a testimony. The way that you live is a testimony of the goodness of Jesus. The way we live ought to be a testimony that shows that we know Jesus is real. I don't care how other folk act when they go through. I don't care what other folks demonstrate when they go through. But as for me, I got to show you that God is real. The way we live is important, and we should live like we know He's our Savior. We ought not live like we don't think He can turn people's lives around, because we ought to know how He turned our life around. And so if He saved you, don't you think He can save your drug addict daughter? Don't you think He can save that alcoholic son? Don't you think He can save that lesbian daughter? Don't you think He can save that gay son? Don't you think God can save that whoremonger, that liar? Don't y'all stop thinking that God can't save. He can still save. You got to just stop judging folk and give God time to work on folk. God is still a Savior. My life demonstrates that God is saved. That's how come I don't judge folk. I live the testimony of knowing if they stay in Jesus' face long enough, something gonna shift, because I know God is able to turn things around. I live like He's a way maker. That's how come stuff don't bother me so quick, Tyrone. Stuff don't get on my nerves so quick, Lady Angel. I don't get scared, Vic, at the first sign of trouble. I live like He's a burden bearer. I live like He's a heavy load sharer. I live like He's a protector. I live like He's a provider. I ain't got to have a whole lot of money, but because I know He's a provider, I live like I know who He is. You ought to be living like you know Jesus will come through. Because if He came through before, He can come through some more. If he came through back then, He can come through again. Is there anybody here who's listening to me who can testify that I know for myself that Jesus will come through? All of us ought to have a life testimony. All of us ought to be having The life testimony, living the life of divine testimony calls for us to always righteously suffer for him. In the text, there's an indication that God's people will suffer as a part of the Christian experience. In the text, the word suffer is from the original Greek word pasco, which means to experience emotional pain. It points to experiencing moments of severe mental adversity. Please don't miss this. We can't live the life of divine testimony without going through some divine test. But according to the text, I might shout, Bruce, if we suffer, it's all right if we suffer for righteousness, because even if we suffer, we bless. I just messed some folks up because y'all don't understand. See, the word blessed from the original Greek word, makarios, means fortunate and made happy by divine favor. And so I'm blessed not because everything is working out the way I want it. I'm blessed because I know favor gonna cover me. I'm blessed because I'm suffering for Christ, and as long as I'm suffering and Christ is a part of my life, I know He gonna take care of me. Even while I'm suffering, He upholds me with His right hand. Even while I'm going through my toughest moment, He's still preserving me. That's how come when I went through and I had the disease, and when I had the burden, and when I had the struggle, I didn't come out of it with the residue of what I've been in, because God was preserving me while I was in it. That's how come some of y'all look as good as you look. Not because you ain't never had diabetes, not because you ain't never had surgery, not because you didn't have COVID, not because you didn't have the walking pneumonia, not because you didn't have a stroke, but because God's favor was covering you while you were going through it. That's how come you look better than everything you've been through, because although you suffered, you were still blessed. Still blessed. Still blessed because God was with you, and that's why you don't have to be fearful of folks who talk about your suffering. You don't have to be fearful of folks who are intimidated by folks who think they're doing better than you, who think they're better off than you, because they're not experiencing the suffering that you are experiencing. The Bible says, don't fear them. Don't be intimidated by them. Don't be intimidated by the situations you face in life. God's people in this time were being criticized because they suffered. The people were wondering, if God's so good, why would He let you suffer? If your God's so wonderful, why would He let you go through marital problems? If your God's so wonderful, why would He let you go through a financial drought? If your God's so wonderful, why would He let your mama get sick like that? If God's so wonderful, why would He let your son be acting out like that? If God's so good, why do you suffer like that? And so Peter says, look, I know y'all don't understand this, but sometimes when you suffer, you're suffering for righteous sake. And what you understand is God is in the midst of proving to you who He really is. You see, these were new Christians. They were trying to learn how to depend on God. They were trying to learn what God was really able to do. It's one thing, Michelle, for folks to tell you what God is able to do, but it's a whole different experience, Michelle, when you go through enough and God show you for Himself what He's able to do. Grandmama told me God was a provider, but tell you what, until I got broke on my own trying to look, and then I found out God is a provider. Grandmama told me God would heal my body, but it wasn't until I got sick that God had shown me Himself that He could heal my body. Is there anybody in here who can testify for yourself that I know for myself God is able? I suffer under the favor and grace of God. I'm all right. I need somebody to hear me. Just because you're going through something today don't mean you defeated. Y'all don't miss me. This may be your season of going through something, but you ain't defeated. Don't you miss it. Please don't you miss it. I guarantee you that you might be suffering right now, but when God's favor get through, God will preserve you in it, and then He will bring you out of it. He will bring you through it. I know it sounds strange, but suffering unlocks a life-changing standard of testimonial living. I can't testimonially live if I don't have no test. And so I have to suffer for righteousness. I have to understand that the Lord has already pre-approved me for breakthrough. He cares about what I go through. He's already prearranged and designed for me to survive. Can I shout that out to somebody? You're suffering, but you already been pre-approved for survival. You're dealing with it in this season, but how many of y'all know seasons change? I want you to know it's already pre-arranged for you to come out. God just got to show you him. God just got to show you that you can lean and depend on him. I don't care what the situation is, but you already gonna come out. So if I could just be honest with you, you can start acting like you're already out of it, because at some point when God gets ready, you coming out of it. Living the life of divine testimony not only calls for us to always righteously suffer for him, but it also calls for us to always regard Christ as holy. Here it is. Verse 15 said, but in your hearts regard Christ as holy. That means God, Bruce, is pure in all of his actions. Dre, you don't understand all God does, but he's righteous in all of his actions. Yes, Sister Austin, you might not understand why God taking you through it, but God ain't mad at you for taking you through. God ain't being mean to you for taking you through. You better check your attitude while you suffer. You better check your attitude while you suffer. You walk around here angry, walk around here acting like you're the Lone Ranger, acting like you're the only one going through something. If you're not careful, God will show you what it really can be. While you crying over this, God could show you what it really could be. Sometimes you better thank God for things being as well as yeah. You're out here crying about hours getting cut, and these folks ain't got no hours. I ought to show you that you ought to be thankful. And so in your heart, you got to always regard Christ as holy. I'm going through something I don't like, but Jesus is holy. I'm going through something that's hard for me to understand, but he's still God. He still loves me. He still cares about me. He still wants the best for me. I got to go through because that's God's that's his prerogative. That's his sovereign will. Whatever he decides, I can't do nothing about it. But in my attitude, I can't be suffering now. Is my life going to be a living testimony of who God really is? When I suffer, I can't disrespect God with a nasty attitude. I can't show nobody to God if I'm always mad. Always complain. You go to work and you talk about, yeah, church was good, then 5 minutes later, the folks looking at you across the cubicle, oh, I can't stand this. They're trying to figure out how it is. You claim to serve such a good God, but you always complain. You better check your attitude. Your son ain't the only one going through. Your daughter ain't the only one in the struggle. You ain't the only one who got some issues in your body. You better check your attitude. God ain't mad at you. You got to understand that you can't let the struggle make you look at God and act out as if God might steal God. I'm scared that I'm preaching to some people who disappointed the Savior. Because while you was driving, you were excited. You started catching the bus, your attitude. When you had your house, couldn't nobody tell you nothing. You ain't even invite nobody. You ain't even let the preacher come to anoint you. You just moved in your new house. All your what he does. So that means in your heart, you don't regard him as holy. That means you only look at God as some kind of genie who does what you want him to do when you want him to do it. Only give you good things, but you don't really understand the total character. That some of the stuff you're going through good for you. Some of the stuff you're going through necessary. Because God said, I ain't going to shift it until your attitude changes. Ain't going to change it until your attitude changes. I want you to holler as loud now that you got a sickness as you was hollering when you was well. I want you to holler as loud as when you had I'm talking about when you had the car, you was hollering. Now that you got to catch a ride, I don't hear you hollering. I'm talking about I need to see. I need to check the temperature of my people. I want to see who really love me. I want to see who really praise me. I want to know if you can praise him with $1 just like you praise him with $100. I ain't talking to everybody. I want to know the people who are praising when you're up, but still if you got enough strength, you'll praise him when you're down. Is there anybody who is? Gotta make sure that you regard Christ as holy. I'm going to leave here in just a minute, but I need to say this because the Lord just dropped it in my spirit. Y'all can't stop serving.
Come on, teach Cashapp.
Because stuff get hard.
Come on,
Y'all can't stop churching. Why is it that the first place you quit? It's amazing to me that after the pandemic, it was okay to go to the ball game. Well, nobody worried about getting COVID going back to work. Well, nobody worried about getting COVID going to the ball park. But it just seemed church is the only place that folks still try to use an excuse for. I ain't gonna be around all the folks. They might have COVID. Well, don't go to work. But that's our attitude, Kel, towards. That's just the truth about how some of us feel about God. We can do everything else. We can go everywhere. Well, we regard Christ as if he's doing something to harm us. He ain't holy enough for you to trust him in church, but you can trust him at the game. I know when I got up to Tremaine, and nobody's saying it. And I see you back there. I got my peripheral. I see you right there. I see you. I ain't gonna look at you, but I see you. Regard as holy. Your life ought to be a testimony of how good God is to you, no matter what. So your attitude, no matter what you go through, ought to still show people how good God is. I'm going to leave you. Finally, living the life of divine testimony not only calls for us to always righteously suffer for him and always regard Christ as holy, but it also calls for us to always be ready, here it is, to defend our home. I like this one because the text admonishes us to be ready at any time, to give a defense to anyone who got the nerve to want to know why I maintain my home. Man, how do you keep your hope with all the stuff man, I don't understand how you do it. I don't understand how you keep going after losing loved ones. I don't understand how you keep going after being so sick like that. I don't understand how you still hoping for that marriage to work out after the way she treated you. I don't understand how you still loving them kids like that, wanting them to come back home after the way they disrespected you. I don't understand how come you got all all this joy in your life after what's going on in the workplace. I don't understand. That's because they don't understand your hope. You see, people who don't understand your hope, they think you crazy when you fight. Y'all ain't saying nothing to me. The Bible says you got to be ready to defend why you maintaining your hope. The word hope from the text is from the word elapies, which means expectation. There it is, Tyrone. You see, sometimes in life, people don't understand your expectation. My hope is my expectation. I expect God to do something. That's how come I still got hope. I expect God to shift it. I expect God to change it. People don't understand how you can hope and expect things to get better, especially if stuff is already at its worst. They want to know why you're holding on, why you still trust God when the worst done already happened, why you still hope things gonna already be all right when you already know that the outcome is already here. The lump is already there. The spot on your lungs is already there. The doctor already said you got diabetes. The doctor already said you got cancer. Your son is in the game. Y'all already got the divorce. Your daughter is running the street. Your job is downsizing. They laying folks off and your name is on the list. What you got hope for and the worst done already happened. They already foreclosing on your house. They already repossessing your car. What you're fighting for, the man already said it's over. What you're fighting for, the marriage is already over. What you're fighting for, the doctor said ain't nothing nobody can do. Is there anybody here with the audacity to expect something in faith that don't make sense in the natural? You don't have everything you think you ought to have, but you know God is still able. You ain't got all the money, but you expect bills to get paid. You know what the doctor said, but you expect to be healed. You don't need all the qualifications, but you expect to get the job. You know you got issues in the family, but you expect things to work out. Is there anybody ready to defend your hope? Somebody open your mouth and say, you can talk crazy about me if you want to, but I can't help but hope. I can't help but expect God to show up and work this thing out. I'm defending my hope. Right along through here, some of y'all gonna consider me insensitive because of what I'm about to say. And it might come across as if I'm not concerned about your struggle. And it may appear that I have little compassion about what you have to deal with. But I'm not insensitive to your struggle. Understand that I'm really striving to shift your attitude from acting like a victim to expecting your victim. But please stop getting mad at me if I don't pity you. Stop talking to folks with hope, expecting them to pity. If you want some folks to wallow with you in your stress, make sure you choose the right people. Because if you choose folks with hope, they ain't got time to be wallowing with you in your stress. You choose to tell somebody who got hope what you're going through, they'll cry with you for a minute. But after a while, they're going to start telling you to hold your head up. I can't let you keep coming around me after a month with the same stress. Because if I let you keep coming around me with the same stress, you're going to pull me down. So please don't get mad at me if I don't want you to stay a victim, but I want you to be victorious. I ain't got time to be coddling you in your victim mode. I ain't got time to be coddling you and you want everybody to have sympathy for you. You better hold your head up and you better start expecting God to do something. And I'm going to tell everybody, if you ain't got hope for yourself, please don't ask me not to have no hope with you. I can't do it. It's not that I don't care, Dre. It's just that I believe God for you. I care about your sadness, ain't you, Lula? But at some point, ain't you, I got to tell you, God is in you. my wife, and at some point, I'll cry with you, I'll give you a little grace, baby. I'll cry with you maybe a few days longer, but at some point, we got to get to the hope. We got to get to what we expect. We know what it is. But baby, we're going to get to what we expect. I want to ask somebody in here, are you playing victim too long? Because the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but your joy comes in the morning. You're playing victim too long. Where is your hope? People have to understand that my hope is my expectation. So I need to remind somebody that if you're a living testimony, you should be living like it. If you know God good, you ought to be living like it. If you know God good, you ought to be living like it. If you know what he can do, you ought to be living like it. I know you go through hard times, but you ought to have a testimony. You ought to have a testimony about you. Just how good God is. Story is told of a young man, and they were riding home from church one night. They got in a bad accident. That boy got paralyzed from the waist down. Mama was crying about that boy. Best friend started crying about that boy. They went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you may never walk again. They put that boy in a wheelchair. Mama took that boy home with her. And every day, Mama had to pick him out of that wheelchair and put him in the wheelchair. Next morning, she had to take him out of that bed and put him in the wheelchair. Best friend would come by sometime, see Mama struggling, moving that boy from the bed to the wheelchair. After about a month killed, Mama and the best friend noticed something. One morning, they put that boy in the wheelchair. He started rolling around, popping wheelies. He started rolling around, smiling and having fun. Mama looked at him, and the best friend looked at him, and best friend started crying and said, I feel so sorry for you. I feel sorry because you can't do the things that you used to do. Best friend said, I feel sorry for you because you can't walk the way you used to walk. But that boy kept on riding around in their wheelchair, just popping wheelies and having a good time. Finally, that son looked at him and said, please, don't feel sorry for me. He said, Mama, I see tears welling up in your eyes, but please, don't feel sorry for me. Boy, so here's what I want y'all to understand. For the first few weeks, I felt sorry for myself. For the first few weeks, I was down in my spirit because all I could think about was I couldn't walk no more. But he said, one day I had a dream, and I saw the Lord, and the Lord showed me that I could have been dead in that car accident. So the Lord showed me that I ought to be glad that I can roll around in the wheelchair. And somebody tell somebody that what you complaining about ain't no good to God. You ought to look at it and take a look at it again. Is there anybody who can say, Lord, I thank you for things being as well as it is? That boy told the screen, said, when you see me popping willies, I'm giving God praise because I could have been there. I could not even be here. So, Mama, thank you for taking care of me. Best friend, thank you for all of your concern. But I gotta thank God that I'm still here. He said, my life is a living testimony of the goodness of God. You see, somebody died in the same kind of accident I was in. But just the fact that I'm still here is enough for me to give God praise. Can I tell somebody? Somebody didn't make it through the thing you complaining about. Somebody fell by the wayside when they lost their job, but you're still here. Somebody gave up when the bills got behind, but here you are still here. Somebody gave up when the sun was running the street, but here you are still here. Somebody gave up when the doctor said they weren't going to make it, but here you are still here. Your life is a living testimony of the goodness of Jesus. Can I get somebody to stop whining now? Can I get somebody to stop complaining now? Should I get somebody to stop thinking the worst now and regulate your mind and say, God, I'm sorry for looking at it the wrong way. Here I am complaining, and you're a real good God. Here I am complaining about what I ain't got instead of being grateful for what I do got. Here I am complaining about the things going on instead of thanking you, Jesus, for everything that's going right. If God did anything for you, you ought to act like it. Don't feel bad because you're going through a struggle. If God did anything for you, you ought to act like it. Is there anybody here who ain't too ashamed to just throw your head up and say, I'll be a witness about the goodness of Jesus? Somebody say, I'll be a certified witness. I'll be a sanctified witness. You ain't got to ask me twice. I'll tell you the first time. He's real good. He's a way maker. He's a burden bearer. He's a heavy load sharer. He's able to turn things around for you. He's a healer of the worst diseases. He can shift the stuff going on with your son. Ask me how I know. He did it for me, and he'll do it for you. The God we serve is a real good God. When you see me striving, it ain't because I ain't got no trouble. When you see me serving, it ain't because I ain't got no burden. But I serve because God been good to me. I strive because God been good to me. When you see me going, I be weary sometimes. When you see me going, I be sad sometimes. When you see me going, I be going through struggle sometimes. But I got to let the world know God still been good to me. Is there anybody who's a living testimony? Somebody look in the mirror when you get home. I promise you'll see a living testimony. If you don't want to look in the mirror when you get home, just look around this building. If you look real close, you don't see some living testimony. Somebody that came out of jail, that's a living testimony. Somebody that came out of a coma, that's a living testimony. Somebody that survived bankruptcy. That's a living testimony. Somebody still got joy after all they've been through. That's a living testimony. Somebody still got peace after all you've been through. That's a living testimony. Is there anybody here now who will stand up with me and say, I am a living testimony? I could have been dead and gone, but now you let me live on. Somebody give God praise, not for what he done, but for what he getting ready to do. Somebody give God testimony praise, like you know that he brought you a long way. Come on, somebody give him glory. Come on, somebody give him honor. Come on, somebody show some sign. Show the world that I got struggles, but God's still good. Can I answer an honest question? Anybody got a burden, but no, God's still good? Anybody worried about no children, but no, God's still good? Anybody worried about your health, but no, God's still good? I want to see the testimony, folks. I want to see the folk with a testimony. Say, I'm going to praise, not because I got money, but because I expect money. I'm going to praise, not because everything's together, but because I expect things to come together. Is there anybody going to praise, not because you got it all, but because you expect God to do something? Somebody praise off of expectation. Somebody shout off of expectation. Y'all, I need somebody to praise him because you expect God to do something. I need somebody to praise him because of your expectation. Come on, somebody, open your mouth and say, this shout right here ain't because of what I got. This shout right here is because of what I know God is able to do. This shout right here, not for my everything, but for what I expect God to do. Oh. Open your mouth and give God praise. If you know God gonna work it out for you. Come on, open your mouth and praise. Open your mouth and praise and say, he'll come through. Come on. Say, he'll come through. Come on, open your mouth and say, come on through, God. Come on through, God. Come on through, God. Come on through, God. He'll make a way. He'll make a way. Somebody say, make a way, God. Make a way, God. I trust you. I believe you. I believe somebody about to get a breakthrough. I believe somebody about to get a deliverance. When the devil is the man, God don't shoot you what you're doing. Open your mouth and pray. Some of y'all don't know how good God is. You don't even know that it couldn't be worse on you. You don't even know that God's favor been protecting you. All this time, God's favor has been covering you. All this time, you got a reason to give God some praise. The devil only wants you to look at your struggle. The devil only wants you to look at what's wrong. But I want you to start looking at what God is able to do. I need somebody to do me a favor now. And say, my expectations coming to life. My expectations coming to life now. Y'all, I expect God to turn it around. I expect God to shift it. I expect God to change it. I feel like shouting. I expect something. I expect God to do something. Excuse me if I give God an expected praise. Excuse me if I give God an expectation praise. This praise for my God. This praise for my son. This praise for my spouse. This praise for my husband. This praise for my wife. This praise for my health.